Welcome back. Episode 23 of the HigherUp podcast. It's been a while since it's been just me and you guys. So we'll see how this goes. It's going to be interesting. I have no plan. I have nothing written down in typical fashion, which is probably a problem. But that's beside the point. My goal is to deliver as much value as I can until I don't feel like doing it anymore. And I go downstairs and I eat dinner and then I go to bed. So today is a Q&A episode. I, in typical fashion, could not figure out what the hell I wanted to talk about. I didn't have an emotionally moving prompt. I didn't have something that I felt convicted to talk about. And luckily, I can resort to you beautiful people to submit the questions for me so that I can really focus on talking about what you want me to talk about. I mean, I guess that's kind of the best case scenario. So that's what I'm going to do. And on my story, I said that I was picking 10, and I don't have a plan for that either. I'm actually just going to comb through the questions like I have in previous episodes and check it out and check out which ones I like the most, skip the ones I don't, and stop when I'm done. I have got to stop flying by the seat of my pants in this career that I have chosen to be in of entrepreneurship and fitness. Without further ado, let's get into it. I have the questions on my phone from my Instagram account, and there are, wow, a lot. There's a lot. Holy shit. Okay, I'm just going to start at number one. And before I do, I thought this was funny. I had this out today and it saved my computer because I spilled water all over my computer. And I have my computer in front of me because it's got my podcast dashboard up. But I went to pick this bottle up by the lid. And as I picked up the lid, only the lid came with it. And the bottle tipped over from over here all over the computer. And I picked it up and quickly placed it on my gratitude journal here, which has a funny title that I'll read to you in a minute. So this thing saved my computer, which I shit on all the time, and I will never shit on you again. I apologize, computer. I used to hate how low quality you were and how I really cut corners in purchasing you, but you're still working despite getting very, very wet. So thank you for that. My gratitude journal says on the cover, this felt like me. I'm not a big journal guy, but this sold me on it. It says, "Okay, fine. I'm grateful. A journey to catapult me," and the font gets smaller, which makes it funnier. "A journey to catapult me from my default position of griping and negativity to the long resisted stance of counting my blessings, because it turns out that focusing on the positive might actually be better for my mind, body, and spirit, in no small part because unhappiness is the gap between expectation and reality. So even though the whole gratitude thing feels like a bandwagon on the woo-woo train, the fact is that deep down I'm ready to start looking at the roses rather than the thorns. And if you absolutely force me to admit it, I will say that in all actuality, I do have so very much to be grateful for." And it's a very tiny font at the bottom if you're watching on screen or on YouTube. And I thought, wow, that felt like I wrote it. That was literally my perspective of gratitude journaling. And I've been writing in it for a fucking minute, but that was an ADD moment. Let's get to the Q&A and get you guys to the reason that you came here. Question number one. I wish I could put these in order of importance, but they're just going to come as they arrive from the poll. Owen, a former coaching client of mine, if you're interested in coaching, book a call or DM me. Owen, who's absolutely crushing it in his fitness now, says, "What are the differences or the pros and the cons of straight salt water versus electrolyte powder?" I'm so sorry if you can hear this chair squeaking. This is a good question because for the longest time, I just did morning salt water and would occasionally do electrolytes if I had them, but I didn't feel it was necessary. I didn't feel I had to buy them because Element is expensive. Liquid IV is not cheap, but not too expensive, but it's also kind of ass, just high in sugar. So for the longest time, I just did morning salt water because salt is one of the essential minerals and electrolytes. So what are the obvious cons of just doing salt? Well, one is that you don't get the other electrolytes, right? Most Element Tea, for example, or Element, has sodium, potassium, magnesium. I believe, and this is so autistic of me to recall so quickly, it's 1,000 megs of salt, 200 megs of sodium, 60 magnesium. And that was sort of the framework of electrolyte formulas. Santa Cruz is very similar. Santa Cruz Medicinals has a great electrolyte powder as well. So you get, what, 20% of your daily, 30% of your daily value, 20% of your daily value of magnesium from Element Tea, 15% of your potassium daily value, and whatever, 30%, 40% of your sodium. I don't know what the RDA is. They're all bullshit anyway. The point is they have other electrolytes. And then you've got a supplement like Optimized Minerals, which is vitamins, minerals. It's got crazy minerals you don't even think of. Freaking chelated zinc, calcium, selenium, which is critical for thyroid function. So the pros of an electrolyte supplement or a mineral supplement is that you are going to get a wider gambit of minerals, which means it's easier to miss the mark on your diet if you're not covering the bases. Salt is just that. It's salt, and salt is great. It's essential for life, and you will feel great if you start doing morning salt water. But electrolytes could be better. The downside of them, however, is that they're fucking expensive. At least last I checked. I don't buy them anymore. I buy optimized minerals, and that's expensive as shit, but I love it. It's an investment, and it's an incredible product. I interviewed Jordan Parker on a previous episode, the CEO of Optimized Minerals. Go find that and listen to it. It's a good conversation. He talks about how he built it, why he built it. He's got an incredible mission and vision, and it's why I don't mind spending $60 a month on his product. But it's not an electrolyte specific. It is a mineral specific supplement. He's releasing optimized electrolytes soon. Basically, it's low in sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Has a bunch of other minerals. All right, I'm getting off on a tangent. The point is, the upside to working with or using electrolyte supplements is that they're more balanced and they cover more bases. The downside is that they're expensive. Salt water is not. And even so, you can make a homemade electrolyte mix. If you don't want to buy LMNT, listen to me right now. You can make a homemade electrolyte mix. Buy a high quality salt, Himalayan pink salt, Celtic sea salt, Mediterranean sea salt. It doesn't matter. Just anything but like kosher or Morton's iodized table salt. Just don't get that. It's got caking agents and bleach in it. It's just weird. Buy an electrolyte, or excuse me, buy a good quality salt. Buy no salt, which is potassium powder, and buy a magnesium supplement. And you can get, I don't know, 90 servings for the price of 30 of the equivalent. So what I would do for the longest time was I would take a quarter teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of no salt, which is pure potassium powder, and mix that up. Drink it with lemon juice because it kind of tastes like ass. Potassium powder is not very good. And then I would take my magnesium supplement, which now is obviously magnesium threonate. But you could do a magnesium citrate, you could do a magnesium glycinate, and you would be covering the same bases for a fraction of the cost. So those are really the only things I can think of. The pros are that it's all in one place. You don't have to worry about making your own, and it's balanced. The cons are it's expensive, and you can make your own at home. Now, question number 2. Audrey Rippey asked, can you give a rundown on micronutrients and their importance? Oh boy, can I, Audrey. Thank you for submitting your question. The best analogy I can think of, which I don't have one right now, so this is going to come off the cuff, so we'll see how this goes, is micronutrients and macronutrients are the two ways to qualify or classify rather nutrients. We have the macro, which is protein, carbs, and fats nutrients. We have the micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. Macronutrients are important for dictating body composition, energy, workout performance, a lot of things. They're critical, right? Fats dictate hormone health. Micronutrients help things set in motion processes that we can't see or feel. So when you have a lack of micronutrients, you have a nutrient deficiency, which I'm sure is a term you've all heard. So with a nutrient deficiency comes a lot of potential things. It could be mild. For example, I talk about all the time how most people are living in a state of mild dehydration and they don't even know it, which is why the morning salt water changes people's lives, even though it's the simplest thing ever. Most people are living in a state of mild to moderate to severe nutrient deficiencies. And it's why they have cravings. It's why they have a hard time with overeating. It's why they have brain fog or low energy. All of these symptoms oftentimes can be attributed to some sort of nutrient deficiency, albeit micro or macro. Actually, all the time, pretty much, outside of some emotional issues or mental issues. But the point is addressing cravings, energy levels, macro and micronutrients. Micronutrients are critical for enzymatic and hormonal processes in the body. So think about it this way. Vitamin D3, it's a micronutrient, is a precursor to sex hormone production, male and female sex hormones. If you're deficient in vitamin D, you'll probably still find a way to pull some from your bones or from the food you're eating, however you're eating. Your body will figure out a way to make some, but maybe not enough. It's sort of like having a recipe for a cake. And you maybe have the key ingredients. You've got the flour, the eggs, the baking soda, but maybe you left out the baking powder and you have the salt, but maybe you left out the cumin, whatever it is. Maybe it's a fall cake. I don't know. The point is that cake may rise and it may come out of the oven and it may look like a cake, but it's not going to taste right or the texture is going to be a little bit off. The same thing happens when you don't have the proper amount of micronutrients in your diet. Your body may make testosterone as a male, but maybe not quite enough. Your body may make progesterone and estrogen as a female, but maybe not quite enough, maybe not in the right amounts. And that's going to lead to symptoms. It's going to lead to cravings for certain foods. For example, a classic one is oftentimes craving chocolate or sweets all the time is a magnesium deficiency. I'm not saying 100% of the time, but a lot of the times cravings are your body's way of manifesting a need or a desire for something and telling you to go get it. But it doesn't know you have a pantry full of fucking Godiva. So it doesn't know you're going to go get chocolate. It would think you go find fruit from a tree or meat from an animal. So that is the importance of micronutrients. It allows your body to fire on all cylinders and produce the things that it needs to produce in the right amounts and the right quantities at the right times. But also, it attributes to your overall sense of well-being. When I started taking optimized minerals every single day, I felt a difference. And I'm very in tune with my body. Not everybody is going to feel that, but I've spent a lot of years experimenting with things that make me feel good or bad or indifferent. And I've been able to figure out what really works for me. And when I started taking optimized minerals, because it's such a comprehensive product, I felt the ability to focus more easily. I felt less of a lull around 2 p.m., that postprandial dip. So I'm going to stop here for the sake of time because we're already 11 minutes in. But that is the sake or the importance of micronutrients. Your body's always baking cakes in different ways and different forms. Micronutrients are the ingredients you need to bake the right tasting cake. Thoughts on creatine? Johnny Combat asks. What a great question. Let me take a quick sip. You must be new here, Johnny, because if you weren't, you'd know how I feel about creatine because I take it every day. Creatine is the most, hands down, well-researched, well-documented exercise performance supplement in history. We have thousands of peer-reviewed studies on creatine, and those studies all pretty much are resounding it works. It is effective at promoting an increase in strength and force output. And an increase in strength and force output over time means you can probably build more muscle over time. There's also some new literature showing that it could lend itself to cognitive function because our brain uses creatine. So I've been taking 10 grams a day. They say based on the research, the proper dosage is 0.1 grams per kilogram of body weight is how much you should be taking. I know I have said 5 grams is plenty for everybody in the past. Other people say the same. That's probably fine for most people, but I'm not a 120 pound 5'3" girl. I'm a 195 pound 6'1" male. So why would I need the same amount of creatine as Jessica over here? That doesn't make sense. So, excuse me. So, creatine is basically a supplement that allows our body to produce more ATP, adenosine triphosphate, our body's main energy source, quickest, most immediate energy source. When I throw my arm above my head, I'm using ATP to do that. When I clench my fist, I'm using ATP to do that. Past about 8 seconds, so the explosive effort stuff, your body burns through ATP that it has in that moment, and it resorts to, I believe, glycogen, which is stored carbohydrate, and then from there resorts to fatty acids. So that is the importance of creatine. If you take creatine, you can have more readily available ATP, and that means you can have more readily available energy for explosive efforts like heavy weightlifting and sprinting. So it is important. I recommend everybody take it, whether you're a beginner, novice, intermediate, or expert. It's critical. Well, it's not critical. It's game changing for sure. I feel a massive difference in my strength levels when I'm not taking it. One study cited up to a 10% increase in strength. Frame of reference, if you squat 300 pounds, that's 30 pounds. That's a lot. It's a whole lot. So why not take it? It's also cheap. Like it's amazing because it's the most effective supplement, but it's also the cheapest. It's hilarious. I love that. Trevor Brunson asked, who did you look up to that helped you gain this mentality? That's a good question. Maybe some of you have seen that Matthew McConaughey Oscar speech when he says something like, who do I look forward to? Who do I look up to? What am I chasing? I think is what he says. I can't remember right now. I don't want to butcher it. But the point is, he says in that speech, who do I look up to? Or who am I chasing? Me in 10 years. And I could be getting this wrong right now. The point is, he's always chasing a goal. Who do I look up to? God. That's what he says. And I agree. And I share that sentiment. Try to live my life through Christ. And I feel like I'm put on this earth to teach. Maybe it's fitness, maybe it's sales, but regardless, I feel like I'm the most aligned I've been with my purpose. I did not mean to get spiritual this quickly, but I feel like I'm aligned with my purpose right now, and it's to teach people something, and maybe it'll evolve. But who do I look up to? God. I'm religious. For those of you who didn't know, that's probably the first time I've formally announced it in a podcast or on a video. But who am I chasing? Me in 10 years is what Matthew McConaughey says in that speech, and it's because he knows he'll never get there. So I'm always striving to be what I think I am in 10 years because I know I'll never touch it. I'll never catch it. Because in 10 years, I'm going to be looking at me 10 years from now. And I sort of dangle that carrot in front of my face and am always chasing a better version of myself. And it's why I have such a fire to continue on, because I've seen what continuous self-development has done for my perspective, the way that I treat others, the way that I treat myself, which is something a lot of you need to work on, is the conversations you have with yourselves are sometimes the most important ones. And a lot of you probably wouldn't talk to yourself the way that you, a lot of you probably wouldn't talk to a best friend the way that you talk to yourself. And hearing that for the first time really challenged my inner dialogue, because I had a lot of hatred and deprecating words towards myself in my inner dialogue. So who do I look up to? The Lord, baby. And try to live through him and try to serve him and make actions and decisions based on what I think God wants for me and wants me to do. And I'm always chasing a better version of myself because it changed my life. So, how could you not have the mentality that I have when you're serving God? It's like, I can't let him down. that's a rough conversation to have when the time comes. Like, hey man, why'd you fold like a Walmart lawn chair? Why didn't you go do that thing? I'm like, well, Lord Jesus, I don't have an answer. So that's how. I mean, I it's all very intrinsic. I don't look to people outside of myself for the things that I do. I look to me because I like me on the other side of those things. I like me on the other side of a 5-minute mile, on the other side of an ultra marathon, on the other side of building the best body I can, of building my wealth, of one day starting a family. That is what I look to. That's what I look forward to. And that's my answer. And I think if more people can get more intrinsic with why they do what they do and have a serious why to cling to, this stuff would be easy. I've watched what it's like to have people that I love so much, family members that I didn't get to choose to love, to watch their health degrade as a result of the decisions that they made every day. And I told myself a long time ago that I don't want to put the people that I choose to love, wife, kids, in that position. Things may happen, but I'm going to stack the deck in my favor. And that's another big why. I know this question's answer's kind of all over the place, but another big why for why I do what I do, is that I felt the pain that is caused when loved ones get sick as a result of their lifestyle. And it's why I believe that not getting fit is the most selfish thing you can do. Not even getting fit, getting healthy. And that's a huge motivator for me. It's why I don't have emotion in my decisions. I just do what I need to do. So hopefully that answers your question, Trevor. Let's see. Give me a minute. This isn't edited. This is all raw, as you know. Pause. Julie Chef said, opinions on fake sugars and low-calorie sweeteners. What are the risks and effects? Julie, I love the question, because despite all the great information out there, some of y'all's doggone algorithms does not show you the resounding majority of literature that says artificial sweeteners are fine. Are they carcinogenic? Maybe. But the point is, the dose makes the poison. And basically, I think it's something like, according to the literature, which I think all of this has been done in rats. So take that for what it's worth. Rats are I think the step below human intervention studies, but human studies are hard. The equivalent dosage it took to make the artificial sweeteners toxic to rats was like a human drinking 30 to 40 Diet Cokes a day for months. Now, if you're doing that, find God or a therapist or a doctor immediately, because that's wild. But 1 to 2 diet sodas a day, actually all the literature that is correlated with people who drink diet sodas shows better body composition outcomes, better health outcomes, better blood work, major mortality markers, right? Cholesterol, HDL, LDL, A1C, all these things that really matter for long-term health are better in people that drink diet soda than people who drink soda. So I believe you have to meet people where they're at. And if someone's addicted to soda and drinking 7 Diet Cokes or 7 Cokes a day, swapping them to 7 Diet Cokes is better, because that's reducing their caloric intake by 700 calories. And the real killer in this world is people walking around fat and sick. So if that person drops 50 pounds as a result of having 7 Diet Cokes a day, that person's better off, statistically speaking, and probably literally. So artificial sweeteners are fine. I drink them every single day, and I feel great. My blood work's good. My digestion's good. My skin is okay. It could be better, but I doubt that's what's doing it. And if it is, that sucks, because I'm not stopping. So artificial sweeteners are fine, Julie. Hope that answers your question, and thank you for submitting. Oh, let's see. What do we got next here? I'm 27 and my testosterone is at 400, and doctors suggested pellets to get me around 800 thoughts. So what you're saying is that a doctor, Cam Knotts, I don't know if you wanted that anonymous because you just talked about your hormone health, but sorry. Um, Cam is basically saying a doctor prescribed me hormone replacement therapy. That's what pellets are. They cut a little slit in you, drop some pellets in your body, and it releases hormones. No. Fuck no, Cam. That's my answer. I took my test from 500 to 800 in like a month just from doing a couple things. I'm going to walk you through them right now. Cam, I would bet that your lifestyle is not where it needs to be. And I bet if you're really honest with yourself, you would agree with me. Are you sleeping a minimum of 6 hours a night? Minimum. Preferably 7.5 to 8. Are you getting in the sun every day? And if not, are you supplementing vitamin D? I would still do that regardless. Are you eating enough dietary fat? Are you eating 80 to 90% whole, natural, single ingredient foods that grew in the ground, grew on a tree, or had a mom and dad? Those are your rules. Natural foods. Are you strength training? Are you lifting heavy? And are you moving throughout the day, 45 to 60 minutes of walking? If you're doing those things and you rinse and repeat that process for 60 days, arbitrary number, but 2 months, and you go back, you get your bloods done, and they're not up at all, then maybe you have an issue. Maybe you have something that needs to be corrected with pharmaceutical intervention. But a lot of people hop on pharma because it's a shortcut, but they never change their lifestyle. I know a lot of fat fucks on testosterone that look like shit and ask me if I'm on gear. I'm not, by the way. I'm not on anything. The point is, if you don't treat the root cause, the exogenous hormones, just like Ozempic, the exogenous intervention will only take you so far. It may make you feel a little bit more energized, but if you're still eating like shit, you're still going to be fat. If you're not lifting weights, you're still not going to have any muscle. And if you're sleeping 4 hours a night and loading your body with sugar and not doing anything like getting out in the sun or doing things you love, or just, basically, if you're not doing the right things, I was getting off on a tangent there that was going to lead me down the tinfoil hat rabbit hole. If you're not doing the big things right, if you're not moving the big rocks, the hormone therapy is not going to take you very far. And especially at your age, if you said 47, I'd say, yeah, maybe consider it. My brother, we are the same age. You're 27 years old and you're talking about getting hormone therapy. If you do that, you're on that for the rest of your life. It shuts down your body's ability to make testosterone. And most people don't rebound from that. Their body doesn't start producing endogenously again. So I would give a real hard effort at eating saturated fats, eating red meat, eating eggs, getting in the sun every day. And if not, taking 5 to 10,000 IUs of vitamin D with K2 every day, sleeping an extra hour a night, lifting heavy weights. And if you're fat, I don't know if you are, but if you carry excess body fat, that also kills testosterone. Conversely, if you're too lean, shredded, which I doubt, because if you were shredded, you would know this kind of stuff. I don't say that to be rude. I just being shredded is bad for your hormone health too. Correct those things first, and then if nothing changes, then consider a pharmaceutical intervention. That's my input. I'm not a doctor, but that's my input. Natalina.xo asked, tips to follow whole food diet in social settings. Crazy how people find choosing real food weird. Yeah, this is a weird time we're in. Where if you go out to eat and you order like a salad with double grilled chicken, people think you have an eating disorder. It's like, actually, Catherine, you've eaten 7 meals today and it's 6 p.m. and you've had 2 regular Cokes and a Frappuccino from Starbucks. You're the one who's sick. Uh, don't give a damn what people think. I caught a lot of shit from my friend group when I started making lifestyle changes and habit changes. A lot of times, Stephen Bartlett said it well. Your self improvement journey will hold up a mirror to those around you and reveal to them what they don't like about themselves. And that's very powerful. When you are bettering yourself and people know that and they jab you and you know you're doing the right things, that's projection. It's the same thing I deal with in social media when people say negative things to me in a comment section on a video where I'm just giving objective information. I brought out something about you you didn't like, and that's your fucking problem, not mine. Sorry. So make the choices that make you feel good. And if anybody says something to you more than once, question the validity of that friendship or relationship. That's my take. My friend Richie Lovelace, Daddy Wellness, has a great thing where he says, if you have to tell a real friend no more than 2 times, that's not your friend. And the analogy he uses in the podcast with Brenda and Santa Cruz Medicinals is, your boy's like, hey man, you want to hit the bong? And you say no. And you're like, no man, I'm good. And he's like, come on, you sure? Come on, you don't want to do it? And you're like, no man, really, I'm good. And then they lay off. It's fine. Ask twice. They come in, they're like, stop being a pussy. Like, why aren't you eating the nachos? Why aren't you eating with us? They have an issue, and they don't want what's best for you. And that's the hard truth. And I became relentless about cutting people out of my life that didn't want me to pursue the best for myself, and sometimes didn't want the best for themselves. So that's my take: is make the choices you want to make, and pretty much anywhere you are, restaurant wise in America, you can make a whole food choice. You can get a salad, you can get a roasted protein, or a baked or a grilled protein with a roasted vegetable or starch. And always just be looking for that on a menu. Sandwiches, no bun with sweet potato fries is even fine, or steak and potatoes, fish and rice, fish and a side of broccoli. Like those items always exist at American restaurants. So that's the actual practical, actionable tips. And the mindset around that is, if they don't want what's best for you, respectfully, fuck them. Ooh, banger of a question from Carmier. Carmier with two R's asks me to please discuss the connection between depression / mental health issues and diet. Thanks. Wow. I love this question. I like when people ask me things that aren't strictly like calories or protein related. Fun fact, 90% of the serotonin we produce, which you guys know as the like one of the feel good neurotransmitters in our brain, 90% of the serotonin we produce is produced in our gut. Crazy, right? Crazy. That blew my mind the first time I heard it. So if your gut is in dysbiosis, a state of dysfunction, and it's not in a good state, it's upset all the time, bloated all the time, it's probably not going to produce what you want it to produce, which is a lot of serotonin, because it's sick. And there's an alarming correlation I heard on a podcast once between people with GI, gut health, or autoimmune issues centralizing in the gut and depression. Um, not from any outside acute events. Trauma is very real. PTSD is very real. That's one thing. Anxiety or depression from a stimulus is one thing, but a lot of times those people aren't taking care of themselves, which leads to poor gut health. But a lot of people just have a general low vibrational frequency with no real reason or cause behind it. It's because they take dog shit care of themselves. So if you want your brain and your mental well-being to thrive, you have to eat a good diet. It's huge. It's not everything, but it's huge. And even people that struggle with clinical depression that maybe need to be pharmaceutically intervened with, in some countries, stage 1 intervention for depression and anxiety is diet and exercise. Like, it's prescribed. A doctor will give you that before giving you a fucking SSRI. And the fact that that's not the case here is criminal, in my opinion. So there's a huge correlation, almost linear correlation between what you put in your mouth and what integrity your gut is at and your mental health outcomes. So feed your gut probiotics, kimchi, sauerkraut, Greek yogurt, kombucha. Eat tons of protein. Eat vegetables. Give your gut fiber. Give those microbiota fiber. If you're heavy on antibiotics as a kid or growing up, take probiotic supplements. Your gut health. When I improved my gut health, when I got really dialed on my diet, it was genuinely harder to get me worked up about things. I'm not telling you that, oh, because I had broccoli, I was so happy. The point is, when I was taking care of my body, from a physiological standpoint, objectively, my gut health was better, but also making those decisions for yourself, showing up for yourself creates dopamine. You stick to a little fitness goal, you go to the gym, you make that right meal choice, dopamine, increased well-being. You go and eat a nutrient-dense meal with family and you feel good about the meal you ate or cooked or provided, serotonin, you feel better. So a lot of times the choices themselves are just as beneficial to your mental health as the action itself, if that makes sense. So there's a huge correlation between those things. Let's see. Why fitness? Trent Whitmire asks, why has this life path grown into a passion for you? Whoa, do I want to dive into that right now? Yeah, why not? So why is fitness such a passion for me? I touched on it, but I guess we'll get more in the details, which I don't know if I'm totally comfortable doing, but I'm going to do it anyway. It started with me being really tired of the way that I felt and the way that I felt about how I looked specifically. It started out of vanity. It did. It wasn't even really about, oh, I don't feel good. It was, I don't feel good about myself. I'm fucking embarrassed. I was tired of being embarrassed to take my shirt off at the pool. I was tired of being the guy that got in the pool with his shirt on. As a little kid, as a teenager. I never liked the way I looked. For as long as I can remember, I had body image issues. And I was bullied for being fat as a kid. So that was my Kickstarter. It was shame. And I believe shame is a great catalyst to start a journey, but it can't be what fuels you forever. But it's a great catalyst. It's a great starter. And then it evolved. It became about how I showed up physically and emotionally and mentally when I did the right things. When I had a good body, when I looked in the mirror and I was proud of who I was, combined with when I was eating a solid diet, my brain was literally getting what it needed from a nutrition standpoint. So it worked better. I never really got tired. Um, I remember in high school, like falling asleep at my fucking desk because I was so exhausted all the time. And I was like, is it normal to be falling asleep at the wheel, tired, driving to school? And then I realized it was because I wasn't sleeping as good as I could have, but I was eating a chicken biscuit and a fucking Yoo-hoo at 8:30 in the morning and wondering why I felt like shit at 10. And then I realized, oh, when I eat these things, I don't really get, even when I'm sleep deprived today, this morning, I was thinking about it. I was super tired, like 4 hours of sleep, but I woke up, cranked an ice bath, went for a walk and had my minerals. And I was like, I'm fine. I'm tired, but I'm fine. It's that profound. It's that different. And when I realized, oh, you're telling me I just have to do these basic things and life is like, it's through a whole new lens. Everything is clear. I'm clear. It felt like a veil had been lifted off of my frontal lobe. Like someone pulled the saran wrap off my cranium. And then it became about that. It became about, I became addicted to feeling as good as possible. And it's evolved again. So I'm just thinking about if I want to share this. My dad is sick. He's really sick. And I have older parents. My dad's 71. My mom is younger than him. Never reveal a lady's age. Love you, Mom. And my dad's my best friend. And, he is one of the people I look up to outside of God. And he's my role model. And he is a big part of the reason, though you've never met him, a big part of the reason that you watch me is because I'm at least 50% my dad. And, sorry. And he's sick. And I told myself a long time ago that, before he got sick a little bit, but even more so now, it's forming my story more because I have other family members that I've watched deal with complications, but to see it in him has been really, really hard for me. And it required me to take some time away. And it's part of the reason I never moved away from Georgia and why I live with them still. I was in between leases and I was going to leave. And my lease ended in where I was staying in Roswell, Georgia in June. And I had my own place for 3 years before that. And then I was going to land here and figure out where I wanted to go next. But now I'm here because there's nothing I'd rather be doing than being with my family right now, being with him. And, I told myself that because the people I don't choose to love uh, aren't making the right decisions or haven't made the right decisions for themselves, I will never put the people that I choose to love in that position. And I know that there's genetics, there's freak things that happen, and some of the things that have happened to my dad are probably freak genetic things, and they're not his fault per se. My dad is an incredible human being. I respect him and I look up to him and I love him more than anything. But I knew that I would do everything I could to stack the deck in my favor so that I didn't put the people that I choose to love, like a wife one day and kids one day, in the position of feeling what I felt when we got the news. It was the worst I've ever felt. And so I don't want to do that. And that's my why. That's what my why is now. It's not about aesthetics. It's not about getting jacked. It's about building a body that can withstand the test of time for as long as it can. Because ultimately, time will always win. I'm only a human. And eventually this meat suit that I'm in is going to break down and I'll move on to what's next with my soul and my spirit, depending on what you believe. I know what I believe, but my financial advisor is an 83-year-old man that still plays tennis 3 times a week and goes to the gym 3 times a week and just hiked in Crested Butte on 12,000 foot peaks. And he's never drank, he's never smoked, and he's always eaten real food and exercised and sharp as a tack. So he's a testament to what it looks like when you show up for yourself with small choices every day. And I decided that that's what I want to do. That seeing 70-year-old people physically fit is the greatest motivator I've ever experienced. And that's who I want to be. I want to be the guy that I want to be the dad, the husband, the grandfather, the great grandfather, God willing, that people can depend on. And I don't want to be anything less. And I don't want to cause the people around me pain based on circumstances I could control, only within my control. And so that's why this is my passion. Yeah. Let's not close on that. That's a heavy note. Let's start with something. Let's go to something light. I don't even know if I've done 10 questions yet. Whew, that's heavy. I'm looking through the questions here. LBet7 asks, what's the best way to bounce back after 2 days of poor eating, parentheses, binge and drinking, feeling guilty? Very simple advice. I don't know if you've seen my videos on how I stopped binging and cheating on my diet, but I took too big of a sip. I'm so thirsty. I felt chronically dehydrated for the last few days. I used to deal with this all the time. The advice I'll give you for this situation is fucking stop it. Stop feeling some type of way about how you eat. Emotions and food do not belong in the same category. I feel a certain way about my family, about my loved ones, about a dog, about a movie. Those things invoke emotion. The food you eat should not invoke emotion. Okay, it is a thing. You are a sentient being. For God's sakes, have some more respect for yourself. Do not let food dictate your emotional state. Please, I beg of you. So, one of the things I did was I lifted all the rules. And Lane Norton, I swear, Lane Norton, you're copying my content respectfully. I talked about the less rules you can have in a diet or a way of eating, the better. Sorry, that's a LaCroix. I'm very burpy. The less rules you can have, the better. And he made a video today where he said, don't have rules, have guidelines. Because if you have a rule of, no processed sugar, or if I have no sugar in my diet, what about a piece of pineapple? Then what? Then you've got all these restrictions and all these fences up, and your brain is wired to push boundaries. So I just said, you know what? I just want to eat in a way that makes me feel good, that makes me perform well, feel good physically, not mentally or emotionally. Helps me to perform and will lead to the desired body composition I want. And then I started viewing the way foods made me feel from a physical standpoint and not a mental standpoint. And that changed the game for me. I also stopped calling it a relationship with food and started calling it my perspective on food. As some of you have heard me say, I don't have a relationship with a fucking turkey sandwich. I have a relationship with people. I don't have a relationship with food. So taking the emotion out of food is really helpful. But what you should do is just get back to normal. Whatever you were doing that made you feel on point, just do that. If you were in a 300 calorie deficit, just go back to the 300 calorie deficit. Okay. Don't overexercise. Don't restrict. Don't fast. That's all bullshit. Do not do that. Just go back to normal. And that is how you build over time a healthy relationship with food. We're coming up on the 40-minute mark here, so I'm going to do one more question. Maze O'Connor asks, any regrets on leaving the corporate world financially, or have you been able to bridge that gap? I've been very fortunate. I have a lot of income streams, and no, the business is booming. I don't regret it. And even if I was making half of what I was making in corporate, I wouldn't regret it because I feel like I'm living my purpose. I feel like I'm doing what I was put here to do. And I know if you're doing that and you align and you go all in on it, the money takes care of itself, which it has. And I've been very fortunate and very blessed. I don't talk about that a lot, so that's not the question I'm going to close on, but it was an interesting question. Nobody ever really asked me about that, but it was worth answering. So let's find a good one to close on here. Good God, I'm so sorry. To those of you that submitted questions, I'm not even halfway through. I'm not even halfway through the questions yet. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to scroll up and down like this and finger. Pause. That's a terrible question. All right, we're going to do that again. Okay, this is a fine one to close on. Johnny on the Spot asks, what's your motivation for staying natural in a world full of influencers on the juice? I'm not an influencer. I'm going to tell myself that forever. But it's because of why I do what I do, what I just said earlier about my why. I don't do this to look a certain way. It's awesome. It was about that at first. It really was. And I love the way I look. I'm proud of my physique. I feel like I finally built a physique that, like, I don't want to go to the gym and build anything. I don't want to develop anything further. I'm happy with it. And that's subjective for everybody. But I chase health. I don't chase aesthetics. And I've said in a video in the past, if you chase health, aesthetics will follow. If you are a person that focuses on protein, that focuses on whole foods, that walks 10,000 steps a day, that goes to the gym 3 times a week, that gets regular sleep in, eventually you're going to have a sick physique. Like, it's just a byproduct. It's a side effect. And most people are chasing that as the main driver when they should be chasing health, and the side effect will be looking awesome. So for me, I don't want to do things that are going to shorten my lifespan or cause me to have vital organ issues. And respectfully, I'm going to get into the steroid, my perspective on steroids. I believe if you're on steroids, you have trauma, or you are compensating. Oh God, this is such a hot take. Do I want to talk about this right now? Um, I've already said it, and I'm not re-recording this episode. If you are on gear for any reason, bodybuilding, stepping on stage, you're compensating for something. You are. You're trying to root out a deep-seated insecurity, or you're just fucking stupid. If you're a kid and you're dumb and you don't even know what you want, and you did a stupid thing. But a lot of bodybuilders I know are the most insecure people on the planet. They'll, like, look at your physique while they're talking to you. It's all they care about. And it's because of something deep inside of them that's not healed. And they don't train and take gear because they love their body. They train and take gear because at one point they fucking hated their body. And that's sad. There's maybe like one guy that I don't think does that for those reasons. And his name is Marcus Hunt. That's my boy. Fuck you, Marcus. we talk shit to each other, but Mark is, like, genuinely interested in it. It's like an educational thing, and he doesn't have a lot of emotion in it. And I respect and admire the approach that he takes with anabolics. But a lot of people are just overcompensating for something. So for me, it's just simply about chasing health and feeling as good as I can. And because I've just been doing that for 10 years now, I've built a semi-respectable natural physique. And I will never hop on anything except maybe when I'm 50, I might do TRT. I don't know. If things are falling down and I want to feel better, maybe I'll start pinning the old cheek. But there's no motivation about it. It's just that's not what it's about for me. And that's why not a lot of my content is physique related. It's talking head stuff, because I don't want the reason that people know me to be, oh, he has nice pecs. Like, where's the fucking longevity in that? I want to make an impact. I want to make a difference. And I don't do that from doing, front double bicep poses. So I apologize to those of you who I couldn't get to, but this would literally be a 2-hour episode, and it's 8:12 on a Friday night, and I'm tired and I'm really hungry. So maybe I'll do a part 2. Drop in the comments if you want me to do a part 2. And in typical fashion, drop your step check in the comments. It is 8:13 Eastern Standard Time, and I am at 11,784 steps. I'm going to wrap the episode up here. Drop your step checks in the comments. If you're on Spotify, please rate the episode, whatever you feel it deserves, and follow me. It really does help me out. And if you're on YouTube, please like the video, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. It would mean a lot to me, and it really does help. Thank you guys for your patience and my inconsistency with the podcast, and thank you for still being here a year later in the content journey, or whenever you jumped in, and 23 episodes into a podcast. Hope you have a great evening and a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one.